Morning, Green Meadow. Let's kick this project into gear. So just last year, about the time this month, Leonie starts asking about senior projects, I bought my first car. The gem that is the 1999 Volkswagen GTI VR6 Reflex Silver. Now, being the perfectly characteristic 20-year-old Volkswagen that she was, she puked all over my driveway. The power steering pump blew all of its fluid down my driveway and shredded out the accessory belt. Now, I had just bought this car. I didn't have money for a mechanic to fix it. I certainly didn't have money for a new part, but I did have a friend named Ryan who convinced me that we could totally do it in my driveway. And I had a dad who was willing to drive to a local junkyard and pick up a used part. So I went to the 5 and 10, bought a $20 car jack that, in hindsight, was probably not that safe, and we went to it. And in an afternoon and a half, we had the pump back in, and everything working perfectly fine again. And it was pretty satisfying. We'd taken this car that was almost undrivable and brought it back to the state that it should have been in. The only thing was, it was kind of boring. Now, I had taken this car and brought it back to normal, but what if the next time I worked on it, I could make it better? I could make it faster, quicker, maybe more agile, look cooler. So I knew it was possible. I knew that you could buy parts online. I knew you could change parts in the engine and change the suspension, but I didn't know what parts did what, and I barely knew how an engine worked. So for the next month or so, I went online and I looked up as much as possible. Every week, or every day even, I would make myself look up a new topic. Like, how does camshaft work, valves, suspension, tires, whatever it was, I tried to learn something new every day. And I created just enough base knowledge to know that you can do this in your driveway with a bunch of friends if you have a Honda Civic. I didn't want to do that. I don't know why anyone would want to do that. It looks broken. Wheels aren't supposed to be like that. Now, if you look at some race cars, some of the front wheels do have a little bit of camber. That's what that's called when the wheels squeak out a little bit. It's not supposed to be in the back, and it's not supposed to be that much. So I knew that was possible with some parts online and some friends in a driveway, but what I wanted to do was something more like this. Now, it doesn't look as stunning. It's not as in your face. But what it is it's a Mark II, just a generation, Golf GTI. It has some nice rims on it, a little bit shiny, the car's a little bit lower. But the best part is that under the hood, there's a 3.6-liter VR6 engine that's pumping out over 300 horsepower. If you don't know how much that is, there's some new Porsches. The Porsche Cayman 718 base model. This Porsche has the same amount of horsepower. It's pretty freaking quick. In a car that small, it started with 100 horsepower and was fun anyway. So that was what I wanted to do, and I knew that doing that in a driveway with no experience with my friends was probably not the safest thing, and it probably wouldn't go that well. So I had to look for some help. That's when I decided that this would be my project, and I needed a mentor. And we all know that car shops are a dime a dozen. You can find anyone to change your oil and rotate your tires. But what I needed was something different, and I needed a shop that was doing something like this. This is what Cast Systems Performance was doing just 4 minutes from my house, one town over. This is a conglomerate, a bunch of different versions of just some ridiculous race car stuff. On the top right, we have a Mark III Volkswagen Golf that makes over 1,000 horsepower, which is absurd. It does the quarter mile in 8.52 seconds, which was by far a world record just about a month ago. And there you can see that the guys in the shop do some crazy fabrication work. They weld, they make anything work to make some crazy things happen under the hood. And a lot of the time, it's in cars that are very unsuspecting because they're Volkswagen, so no one sees that coming. And I love that part about it. So I'm assuming there's 3 or 4 guys in the shop all working together, pitching in their skills and making this stuff happen. But when I show up, it's only these 2. Don't get me wrong, Nelson is an integral part of the shop. I mean, the morale would be non-existent without Nelson. But he's a dog and he doesn't have hands. So that that means that James, that guy right there, is doing absolutely everything. He's the only man in the shop keeping 3 full-service lifts filled, keeping a shop that holds 10+ cars at a time filled, and keeping cars coming in and out fluidly, and also doing engine work and race car stuff on the side. He's pretty crazy and also pretty talented dude. So when I showed up and I asked for an internship, part-time, unpaid, I guess it's not a surprise in hindsight that he offered me a full-time job for the entire summer. He probably needed an extra set of hands. So I was happy to help, and I got to work. That's when you come home when you don't know how to work on cars and your boss tells you to work on cars. You end up shoulder deep in old Volkswagen Passats, and your face hits transmissions and you don't really know what you're doing. But I really just got right into it, and that was the best thing about James, is that he would point me at a problem, he'd point me at a job, and say, go do this. He wouldn't give me any instructions, he'd just tell me what needed to come out. Go pull the transmission out of that car. And I'd grab the sockets that I thought I needed, and I'd go and try to do it. And I'd work on my own until I hit a roadblock, and then I'd say, James, need your help? He'd come over, he showed me just how to do that one step, and then he'd go back to doing his own thing. And what that meant was that I really had to think about what I was doing, and that I learned a little bit quicker about what I was doing. I had to know what the next step was, and what I was actually working on. Just being a little bit more conscious than having instructions fed to me. So what I got to work on were things like this. It looks kind of unsuspecting. It looks like that engine is supposed to be there, right? You wouldn't suspect anything if you opened that hood and you didn't know what that was. But this is a Mark I Cabriolet. This is a tiny little Volkswagen from 1979, all right? This thing is tiny. It weighs less than a ton. Most Honda Civics weigh almost 2 tons or something. No, that's not Honda Civics. Anyway, it's really, really light, and it's a convertible, and it's tiny. And it comes with this little 4-cylinder engine that puts out 80 horsepower. We put in this monster that's 2.8 liters, 6 cylinders, and pumps out almost 180 horsepower. Now, if you didn't know it, again, like I said, it looks like it's supposed to be there, and that's the best part. This was kind of a baby project of mine, kind of a child of mine. James let me do every aspect of this build throughout the summer. He let me see what a whole engine swap looks like from start to finish. You can see the engine is in there, obviously. Top right, you can see we did suspension. We also did some disc brakes in the rear. The car comes with drum brakes. Just a lot of little conversions and upgrades to make the car drive right after you change such a massive thing, such as the engine. On the bottom there, I also got to do some engine work. I took apart a bunch of engine heads, took out valves, worked on the race car engine. This happens to be just a customer who came in with every valve in his engine bent. If you don't know what that means, the car really does not work like that. You can't let in air or out. It just barely made it to the shop. So took it apart, took all the cams out, all those pieces that you see laying there, and just looking at it, it looks like I know what I'm doing, and that's pretty cool. And the fact that I can look at that and I know how everything goes back together, I know what car came out of, I know how many valves there are, I know how many cam bridges there are, I know where everything goes, is pretty satisfying to me. I'm pretty happy with that. So now I have some money that I made from working all summer, and I have the knowledge that I gained from that same work. And what that means is that I had a natural itching to build a car of my own. Now, what car will it be, you ask? Well, when you're a high schooler who's cheap to start with, wants to build a car that's going to be fast, so he's going to have to spend some money on the engine, you end up really finding a gem for the car itself. I really ended up with a piece of artwork. You'll notice that's not a car. That's pieces of the car. And then there's this nice warning that someone left me on the posting to buy this car. It says, so for that money, you want someone to haul away all the damage you did to that car? I sure am glad no one has taken you up on it. And Cole thought, perfect. So I dished out $400, went there, checked it out, and the guy delivered it right to my door. Not to mention that the listing had already been up for 3.5 years and no one else steadily lowered the price over the course of 3.5 years, which meant it was a steal now, right? Yeah. You can see that she was a mess. The engine bay there is a mix of rust and different primers. The exterior is missing all the bumpers, all the lights. The interior is not in. If you look at that before picture on the top right, you'll actually notice that there's a 2x4 holding up the window. There's no window regulator to hold the window up. There's a 2x4 jammed in the door. So that was fun to find out. We also have every other part of the car stuffed within the car. There's taillights on the floor. There's a bumper on the front seats that aren't bolted in. There's an air conditioner right there. You look really closely, you know what you're looking at. And then there's just all the parts that I had to pull out of this car. It took me 2 nights just to get everything out of the car and organized. But I got to work. You look here. This is me. So excited. Before I, had the realization that I didn't own a car, a piece of car. But I was excited. So I got to work, and what I found was things like this. These are the floorboards. They were covered in gross, old, soggy, moldy sound deadening from 1989. So everything had to get chipped out by hand. There are easier ways to do it, but I'm kind of headstrong and just went for it. On the right, we have, after I chipped out all of it by hand, then wire wheeled it all down to bare metal, and then next slide we have, I painted it up with primer, gave everything a couple coats of paint, and then put in new sound deadening. And I tried to treat every single piece of the car like this. Did it absolutely the right way every time, and I did it to the best of my ability for every aspect of the car. And that continues into all the suspension components. On the left, that thing looks like it's been at the bottom of the ocean for a couple of years. On the right is after I spent a week or so cleaning up, sanding, grinding down with the wire wheel, sometimes even sanding by hand because I'm insane. Then respraying with high heat paint. And then for the important parts, like that hub right there, that's what connects the wheels to the rest of the car. So I figured that was kind of important to replace, so we got a new one of those. But that is the same part that you see from left to right. These are all the cars that donated their lovely subframes and components to my car. My car, the plan was to put one of those VR6 engines into it. Like I mentioned before, it was never supposed to have that engine. Volkswagen never expected that car to hold that engine. So you kind of have to Frankenstein it together. All of these cars have contributed subframes, control arms, whatever, just because they share either a body style or the engine. So we stole a lot of parts from those. And then on top of that, we have performance parts that I added to make sure that this thing is driving as well as it can be, given that it's, kind of Frankenstein together. We have some massive front brakes that don't even fit on the car yet because the wheels are too small for the brakes. That's how big those things are. On the bottom right, we have suspension, which you can tell is race-inspired by that vibrant red. We call that race red. On the top left, we have more race red, which is kind of a picture of polyurethane bushings to make sure the car is nice and stiff and turns. It's not going to flop around too much. And then just a nice upgraded shifter because it feels better. This is the engine before and after. Again, looks like it was sitting at the bottom of the ocean. And then on the right is after I spent a weekend or two stripping everything down, again, to bare metal, respraying. Every component came out, few gaskets got switched up, everything got straight down to bare metal and then painted again. And now it's ready to go into the car. The car now looks like this, as it sits now. That's a pretty big difference. This is 4 months. I forgot to mention when I got this car. I worked the whole summer, and then I had a couple months of school, and then right smack dab in the middle of the school year, I bought this thing. And so this is me. This is 4 months of my work after school, after work, after dinner, going out at night and annoying my neighbors in the cold while it's snowing, and doing this kind of work. My mom's laughing. Next slide. Another before and after picture. You can see again, no interior, no taillights, no bumper, gross. This is how it sits now on its own 4 wheels with brakes in the rear, tires and interior, and it looks pretty good. Thank you. Again, another before and after. My friend Ryan spent 6.5 hours detailing it, and that's pretty sweet. Again, another before and after shot. This is how it sits now, and my final picture is how it will look. This is what we're shooting for, kids. That's my 06 engine, photoshopped into my engine bay. So yeah, that's my project. This is how my car sits now. And more than just this car itself, I've really learned a ton about the car world in general, and met a lot of really cool people at some car shows, some races that I've attended with my boss. And staying on the topic of that guy, I don't know if he's here, but James Castellano of Cast Systems Performance has helped me more than anyone else, more than I could ever imagine. He's laid out his own money for parts for this car. He's spent his own time working on it. He's lent me every tool and taught me everything I know. So really this thing would be non-existent without him, and I would be a lot further behind. So can't thank him enough. He's a really great guy. Also, Mr. Davis helped me out with the speech, so thank you for that. And thank you for my class, for not getting pissed off when I make car sounds all the time. all the time. Any questions?
How fast do you want it to go?
Just speed limit. Talk to me later.
Two questions. One, does this shop only works with Volkswagen, or why are you focusing on that? And also, related to that, you're not really allowed to drive race cars on the highway, so where do people...
Correct. My car is not quite a race car. That one that I showed in the pictures is, really a race car. I can drive this one around. I can get it insured and plated and all that. First question was, yeah, they only work on Volkswagens, Audis, and Porsches because they're all part of the same thing. They're all made by the same people. Relatively specialized in it. Yeah. Nikolai or Taz,
When do you think you will have it finished?
Finished, my goal is before the summer. I really want to drive it before I leave for college. Yeah. So.
That Honda Civic in the picture, what do you think it sounds like?
Oh man, I'm not warmed up. It's really cold before it's thing. We're going to have to get some hand gestures going. First gear. How much it's worth and how much I have into it?
No, I want to know how much it's worth. And then you can tell me how much you have into it.
There was pretty much the exact same car for sale about a month ago. My dad sent me an article. A guy was trying to sell it for $3 grand. Same engine, same wheels, same car. And then the article was that it was probably a scam because that was too cheap. What I have into it now is $1,748. That's minus the labor that I've worked through James. He'll give me parts for labor. So probably another 5 weeks or so has gone into parts. But,
what sort of sound system are you playing on?
You'll be listening to the sweet symphony that is the VR6 engine. No sound system. As of now, the car was built in 1989. Oh, one here.
Are you going to pursue customizing cars as a job?
Not as a job. My boss constantly wants me not to. I don't know why. I mean, he has his reasons, but he's a nice guy. But no, I don't plan on it. I think it's more of a hobby, and it's something that I like to do with friends that share the same passion for cars and just cruising around on the weekends together, as opposed to a full-time job. Yeah, I think that was our last question.
Thank you.